the word actually origin from Czech Republic, when our ancestors like threw the official German officers out of the Prague town hall windows because they weren't happy of the escalating of the things, etc., etc., etc. And mostly the impact of Prague or the reasons of Prague being so strong in Bitcoin are mostly attached to our quite a recent history of the Russian involvement in our country, basically from the communism era, because there's nothing nice on communism. It ruins everything. And it actually disgusts me to see and hear that people are like cheering communism and socialism again. They know nothing. It's so stupid. I lived it. I know how my family was impacted, how badly they were impacted. And it was that bad that, yes, we were like free to do whatever we liked in Czech Republic. But it was more like Orwell's time, we were prosecuted for not following the party decisions. We were prosecuted for having our own opinion. We were prosecuted for meeting people who weren't like allowed by the party, etc. And because the Communist Party sucked so much, there was nothing available on the market. Even like standard things we use in our daily lives, which we consider like being totally normal to be found in the stores. Like there were hours-long queues standing on the streets during the crazy winter times, waiting to buy one or two banana or one or two oranges as a Christmas present for their kids in the Christmas. And the Christmas was usually the only period of the year when such a fruit was available in our stores at all. It was really crazy. And that's just the groceries. And there are many examples on everything, like anything you need for sport equipment or car equipment or gardening stuff. There was basically nothing. And it was really hard to get something. It was usually like OTC, only for friends or for friends of friends of party. So people were basically forced to create and to do-it-yours things for their daily living by themselves, out of the things that they were able to somehow put together. So we became creators and developers, and it wasn't just because of our history. It was because of our needs. There was no other way. And like, of course, the Berlin Wall went down in 1989. Velvet Revolution in Czech Republic happened right 2 weeks after or a month after. Sorry, I'm not best in history. And so we became free, finally. But that culture became present in our minds. So when, for example, Stick or Slush from Satoshi Labs were thinking, and they were already orange-pilled, and they understood that storing something like a private key is probably not safe enough in some third-party developed application on the laptop, that it might be smarter to put it on like cold storage device. They discovered that there's none on the market, so they created by themselves Trezor wallet. Same with like when Slush was mining, he realized that mining solo probably won't be efficient enough sooner or later. And as there was no mining pool present on the market, he created the one, Slush pool, and it's Brains pool nowadays. And there are many examples, like it's against Stick and Slush. They realized that private key is super hard to remember or even write. It's really easy to make a mistake in the process. So they created a seed phrase, BIP39 standard. So again, that culture of the do-it-yours culture, or that tailoring things culture, or like finding a solutions for something which is not available on the market, was just simply so deeply attached into our bodies and minds that it persisted and remained present even in Bitcoin space.
It's
Long
super
story short.
interesting. It's super interesting of seeing that communism, that from basically the Soviet oppression which Czech has gone through, and how people now in Czech think about freedom differently than maybe in other countries in the European Union. So it really shaped their views and the spirits around freedom differently. I love that. That's really awesome.
Yeah, thank you. I definitely agree. like Czech Republic, and I would consider Czech Republic be more like a part of the Western Bloc, to be honest. And I don't actually like dividing to divide world into Western and Eastern Bloc in general at all, but like somehow. But Czech Republic is like still keeping that Eastern way of thinking and welcoming people and being like being open-minded and willing to help, being welcoming. This is like this origin from our Eastern culture and roots, but we are like westernized from the capitalism perspective, I would say. But we are keeping the best from the both sides, still being in the middle of the Europe, and it's really great. Like Czech Republic is one of the best countries to actually consider for living. Of course, like things can turn out terribly wrong pretty quickly. It's still European Union, so again, we are not free at all. But at least like in Czech Republic, we value our freedom on that level that as long as you behave and don't bother anyone, you are free to do almost anything. So like really nobody cares if you are that or if you do that or this or willing to like this or that. Free, you are free. You are free to do so unless you bother and as long as you behave somehow. And this is quite unprecedented in world actually.
What do you think young people that are into socialism and communism don't get about it? I mean, obviously they never lived in it, otherwise they wouldn't be in that ideology.
Yeah, I believe that it all origin from the education actually, and there's a lack of education on this scale in our schooling system. I don't actually know why, and of course it's quite a while since I'm out of our schooling system, but nobody taught me about the communism at all. You know, I was basically forced to remember all those names of old Greek philosophers and that they lived in the barrel, you know, and that there was a war between Rome and Greece, etc. And we covered this so complexly. Actually, it was really tiring. On one hand, on another hand, our history lessons stopped with the Second World War, and that's it. You know, like I don't understand why, because those like that present past actually affects our daily lives much more than Greek philosopher. And nothing against them. They were pretty smart and they helped us to get to the point where we are now. But like skipping that communism era, socialism, even like the Munich Agreement and all that stuff on that young level is from my perspective the reason why that socialism and leftist approach and even communists are still present and becoming actually stronger, because nobody gave them real examples of how terrible this was, you know, how like really terrible. Like the communism killed much more people than World War II. And that's a simple fact. That's not a single argument you can rise on top of this. But nobody put it in this context. And that makes me actually pretty sad, to be honest, because again, it affects our daily lives so much that I don't understand why it happens in this way.
Do you also see that the EU politics, which and Prague is a part of the EU, is kind of moving in a more socialist future?
I believe it's pretty obvious, you know. First of all, they are incompetent. All of them are totally incompetent. And second, they are being elected for 4 years. So their only motivation and incentives, their only motivations and incentives are to be re-elected again in 4, 5, 3 years, depends on the system. So what they can do, while knowing that the system is broken, that the money doesn't work anymore, that the only way how they can survive is to print more money. What else they can do than just pay more people to the voters, so they vote them again. They become a slaves of the system. So there's not any other way of than becoming socialists on that scale at all, actually. So They are incompetent and they become slaves of the system. They are trying to rule the world, which doesn't work at all. And yeah, I believe I answered the question actually already. Yeah.
It's super interesting when we look at global politics. How do you act? Because I think America was also a little bit more going in the direction with Harris and Biden, and now Trump came in. How do you look at what happened in America the last few months, and how this might compare to the European Union? And do you think, in addition to that, do you think that this might actually come to Europe as so many things come a little bit later to Europe from America?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, good question. I'm not an expert on macroeconomy or global politics, just for the record. I believe that having this kind of like political influence on a European scale will help us a lot. We need to be able to speak freely, to call things the way they really are. We should not be afraid to put things in the real context and to stand for our opinions. Like, for example, like hold that I don't know, like lefty or wokeness movements. It doesn't make sense at all, and it's only strong because we became so weak. We became weak. We Usually people are afraid to tell what they really think because they are afraid that somebody will accuse them of not being open-minded enough. But like that will kill the humanity sooner or later. Or there's that meme, but it's not a meme at all. Actually, it's really becoming true, like that. Like, good times create weak men create weak times, weak men create strong men create good times again, and we are going in the circles or in the waves, or how you put it. So, like, on one hand, of course, this is natural. The humanity is going up and down as anything. I believe that we are on a peak, and it gonna hurt sooner or later. But like, first of all, like, we shall become like free to call the things the way they are. We shall not be afraid of like doing things we like and we are free to do. Like, and I'm okay with anyone. I don't mind if the people is blue, yellow, purple, or whatever. But please, like, don't make me change my mind of the world just because you are blue. Maybe you shall adapt, right? Just my freedom ends where your freedom starts. So this is the way we shall think of the world. And to get back onto your question, I believe that this exactly actually happens in the US, that Donald Trump starts to call things the way they really are. I'm not sure how true or legit he is on this, and how much it is just the populism. But I believe that he tries to move the world at least onto some capitalistic way of doing things once again. But we need to wait, because only time can tell us if if he was true or not.
And I love that what you said a little before that, of if you stand for something, people are like, oh, like, keep an open mind and stuff like that. That's all good, but having a standard doesn't exclude being open-minded. For example, with Bitcoin, I'm heavily Bitcoin only, and I'm saying, no, I don't want any altcoins. People can now accuse me of like, oh, you're not open-minded enough. I'm open-minded. I was in shitcoins. I was in altcoins. And if there's something really interesting, I look into it and see if it's actually good. But I have my standard of being Bitcoin only. And people confuse having a standard with not being open-minded, which I'm really frustrated with a lot of times.
Yeah, I totally feel you, and that's great example of many, actually. Because if anyone tells something like this, it only means that they are not open-minded enough. They can't accept that you are simply having different opinion on things they consider being normal, which should be accepted, and it should not be a case of fighting. And that's actually another thing, or in the present world, I'm not really happy about that. Like, different way of thinking of the same things were points for a discussion before. People, and I enjoy like reasonable discussion and argumentation on the friendly or even like business or it doesn't need to be unfriendly level, but I enjoy the argumentation and discussion on the smart level mostly. But the community and the society is like so polarized that it seems to me that anyone having a different opinion becomes immediately an enemy, which is kind of sad. Like we should be willing and open and happy about like having different opinion on things, and we should be willing to share and learn from each other and talk them through. Of course, it needs to stay on a reasonable way of doing, and there always is a reasonable way of doing. But this is something that it's disappearing, I would say. And like that, you are not open-minded enough, you are my enemy, you are not fan of my shitcoin. That's just one example of many. Again, I'm more like repeating myself here. Yeah.
But it does make a lot of sense. How actually did you had a lot of those things already before Bitcoin, or how did Bitcoin kind of impact your life and your view on things?
Yeah, that's actually interesting. Yeah, Bitcoin affected my life like on level I would never imagine, to be honest. And it again it goes after the education, and it became a surprise to me while I learned of how finance work. What are actually the fiat fundaments? What are the real basics? I learned all of them after becoming a Bitcoiner, because I was interested on finding the answers. Why is Bitcoin so unique? Why do Bitcoiners say that money is broken? So I learned and I realized, okay, there's like a lot on this. I become interested, so I learn more. And then I realized, how's that nobody in our schooling system learned me such a basic things like what interest rate is, what the futures market are, how shall I save money to my pension system, because pension system in Europe in general is broke, that blah, 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 blah. It's so complex topic, rabbit hole by itself. How did nobody learn me about this in the schooling system? So, and then there is like food, health way, healthy life, health lifestyle, sorry. And more like that approach of questioning things and becoming curious again. Because it's interesting that we as a humans, we are curious ones. I have 3 kids and I can see the curiosity in them. Like they are excited of everything. Hey, what's that, daddy? How does it work? It works like this. Why? Okay, how much time you have? Let's dive deeper on this. And we all have this, but schooling system, at least in Czech Republic, tends to kill this curiosity in kids and in humans. And Bitcoin actually opened this way of thinking to me again on so many levels. So like Bitcoin really is an eye opener, which is quite surprising, because it's just a internet money, nerdy one. Yeah. So, joking.
Are you homeschooling your kids? I see that community of homeschoolers and Bitcoiners are really overlapping.
Yeah, they are not that old yet, but I'm thinking of like the right way of schooling them.
Yeah, it's super fun. There are so many topics that are in Bitcoin, but actually have little to nothing to do with Bitcoin itself. In the end of the day, it's just like an asset and a network. And then we talk about homeschooling. Thank you for watching this video. This was only a snippet of the podcast. And if you want to watch the full episode and get all of the context of this episode, you can click right here or here. Oh, maybe also here.